Microsoft's official list is straightforward, 7 categories. You're looking at partner account, marketplace-ready product, technical integration, pricing model, compliance documentation, go-to-market assets, and ongoing operational readiness. It sounds simple. 7 boxes to check, submit, and you're done. But what's missing from that list is the depth of each requirement. Let's walk through 3 of them. Start with the partner account. That means you're enrolled in the Microsoft Cloud Partner Program with a verified business identity, bank account set up for payouts, and a tax profile per country if you're selling internationally. Each of those can take weeks. The bank verification alone can stall your entire submission if your legal entity name doesn't match your bank account name exactly. That's not a technical problem, it's an administrative mismatch that stops your listing cold. Then there's the technical integration. You need Entra ID, billing metering APIs for usage-based pricing, SaaS fulfillment APIs for subscription lifecycle management, and ARM templates if you're deploying into Azure. This is not a one-day job. For teams without prior marketplace experience, the technical integration alone can take 6 to 10 weeks before you even submit for certification. And compliance. Privacy policy, terms of use, security documentation. For some offer types, a full security white paper with data flow diagrams and access scope descriptions. That's not a quick copy-paste from your website. It's legal review, engineering sign-off, and a document that takes time to get right. Here's the hard way. Partners assume requirements means a form to fill out, but it actually means engineering work, legal review, and operational setup. The ones who treat it like a checklist get rejected, while the ones who treat it like a project plan get listed. The 80% trap, 5 errors that kill most submissions. Now here's where it gets interesting. Microsoft's own documentation says 5 common errors cause 80% of review rejections. Not technical bugs, not product flaws, but 5 administrative errors that are completely preventable. Let's walk through them. Error 1, missing or invalid terms of use link. Not a broken link, not a placeholder page that says terms coming soon. It needs to be a real legal document that a reviewer can open and read. If it's missing, if it's a 404, or if it's a generic template you pulled from a competitor, you get rejected. Error 2, missing or invalid privacy policy link. Same standard, same rejection. Microsoft's reviewers check this. They click the link. If it doesn't work, or if it's clearly a placeholder, your submission stops. Error 3, missing testing instructions for reviewers. No credentials, no setup notes, no path to validate the product. The reviewer gets your listing and has no way to log in, test functionality, or confirm it works as described. They're not going to hunt for your demo environment. They're going to reject it and move on to the next submission. Error 4, missing service or account disclosures. If your product needs an Azure subscription, a Microsoft 365 tenant, or a paid third-party service, you have to say so explicitly in the listing. Not buried in the FAQ, not in a footnote, but in the description, clearly stated. If the reviewer can't tell what's required to use your product, they'll flag it. Error 5, missing disclosure of additional purchases. Any required add-on or paid dependency must be listed in the description. If your SaaS product needs a premium tier of a third-party API to function, say it. If your VM image requires a separate license for the database engine, disclose it. If you don't, the reviewer will assume you're hiding costs. These are not technical problems. They're administrative, but they stop your listing cold. The frustrating part is how avoidable they are. Partners spend weeks on the product. Engineering, testing, polishing, and then 10 minutes on the submission. And that 10 minutes is where the rejection happens. So you fix the 5 errors, resubmit, and wait, and wait. That brings us to the second hidden cost, time. The timeline problem, 8 to 24 weeks and counting. Here's the problem most partners don't see coming. Microsoft publishes estimated listing times that look straightforward. AppSource at 8 to 20 weeks, Azure Marketplace at 12 to 24 weeks. But that's only if your first submission is perfect, with no rejections, no rework, and no surprises. Each rejection cycle adds 2 to 4 weeks minimum. You get rejected for a missing privacy policy link, so you fix it and resubmit, and that's 2 weeks gone. Then you get rejected again because the testing instructions weren't clear enough, so you fix it and resubmit, and that's another 2 weeks. It adds up fast. Most partners don't budget for this timeline. They plan a quarter-end launch and miss it by months, telling their leadership we'll be live in Q2 and then still being in certification in Q3. That's not a failure of execution, that's a failure of planning. The technical integration alone can take 6 to 10 weeks for teams without prior marketplace experience, and that includes SaaS fulfillment APIs, billing metering, and ARM templates, each a separate integration requiring engineering time, testing, and debugging. And that's before you submit anything. Legal review of terms, privacy policy, and compliance documentation adds another 2 to 4 weeks, and your legal team has other priorities, so they're not going to drop everything to review your marketplace listing. That timeline needs to be built into your plan. The storefront decision matters more than partners realize. Choose wrong and you're rebuilding. If you're a business app vendor who picks Azure Marketplace because it sounds more technical, you're invisible to the line of business buyers who actually use AppSource. And if you're an infrastructure vendor who picks AppSource because the timeline is shorter, You're invisible to the IT buyers who use Azure Marketplace. The wrong choice costs you months of rework. The hard way creates a cycle where timeline pressure leads to shortcuts, shortcuts lead to rejections, and rejections lead to more timeline pressure. Partners rush the submission to hit a deadline, get rejected, spend weeks fixing it, and then rush the resubmission. It's a loop that only breaks when you step back and plan for the real timeline from the start. AppSource versus Azure Marketplace, the wrong choice costs you. Let's talk about that storefront decision because it's one of the most misunderstood parts of the process. Two storefronts, one publishing system, but different audiences, different requirements, different rules, and picking the wrong one can cost you months. AppSource is for business apps like Dynamics 365, Power Platform, and Teams integrations, and the buyers are line of business people like marketing directors, ops managers, and finance leads. They're not technical. They're looking for solutions to business problems, and they want to buy them without involving IT. Azure Marketplace is for IT solutions like infrastructure, SaaS that runs on Azure, virtual machines, and containers. The buyers are developers, cloud architects, and enterprise procurement teams. They're technical. They need to know how your solution deploys, what resources it consumes, and whether it plays nice with their existing Azure environment. Here's the trap that catches a lot of partners. Multi-year pricing plans automatically delist from AppSource and move to Azure Marketplace only. Microsoft's policy is clear on this. If you're a business app vendor who wants to offer 2-year or 3-year contracts, your listing disappears from the storefront your buyers actually use. Your line of business customers are browsing AppSource and your offer isn't there anymore. It's on Azure Marketplace where they'd never think to look for a business app. That's a real problem. You build a product for business users, price it for multi-year deals because that's what enterprise customers want, and then your listing vanishes from the one place your buyers know to find you. You're not wrong for wanting multi-year contracts, but you need to know the trade-off going in. Customer prerequisites are different too. Azure Marketplace requires an Entra ID and an active Azure subscription to purchase. So if your customer doesn't have those, they get prompted to create them during checkout, and that's friction. AppSource doesn't require an Azure subscription for most offers, so your business buyer can click, purchase, and start using your product without ever touching the Azure portal. That's a meaningful difference in how easy it is to close a deal. The hard way is this. Partners pick a storefront based on convenience, whichever one seems easier to publish on, or whichever one their developer recommended, without thinking about where their buyer actually shops. Then they wonder why no one finds their listing. The listing is live, certified, technically perfect, but it's in the wrong store. The buyers are on the other side of the wall. The unified Microsoft Marketplace is coming. Microsoft has announced plans to merge AppSource and Azure Marketplace into a single destination, rolling out slowly starting in the US with global expansion later. But don't wait for it to solve your storefront problem today. The unification is not here yet, and even when it arrives, the underlying audience differences won't disappear. Your buyers will still behave differently depending on whether they're looking for a business app or an infrastructure tool. The storefronts might merge, but the personas won't. So you've chosen your storefront, submitted your listing, and waited through certification. You're live, and this is where most partners make their biggest mistake. Live doesn't mean working, the operational reality. Getting published isn't the finish line. It's the starting line, and a lot of partners don't realize that until they've been live for 3 months with zero pipeline to show for it. Microsoft operates under an agency model. They handle billing, collections, and payouts, sending invoices, collecting payments, managing tax compliance, and paying you your share. That's their job. Your job is everything else: product support, customer provisioning, the actual customer experience. When a customer has a problem with your software, they don't call Microsoft, they call you. If provisioning breaks or a customer wants to upgrade their plan, that's your workflow to manage. The hard way is this. Partners go live and expect leads to appear, but they don't. The marketplace is not a lead generation machine that turns on when your listing goes live. It's a distribution channel that makes your product available to buyers who are already searching, but those buyers need to find you, and they need a reason to choose you over the other 11,000 offers on Azure Marketplace or the 19,000 apps on AppSource. Seller activation is required. Microsoft's field sellers need enablement. They need to understand what your product does, who it's for, and why they should prioritize it in their conversations with customers. They're managing hundreds of partner solutions, and yours is one of them. If you don't give them a reason to remember yours, they won't. Co-sell readiness is a separate process from listing. It's not automatic. You need a pitch deck, a one-pager, sales contacts per geography, and deal registration discipline. Microsoft has specific requirements for what co-sell collateral looks like, and if you don't provide it, your solution doesn't get surfaced to their sellers. You can be live on the marketplace and invisible to the sales team at the same time. MAC eligibility at Microsoft Azure Consumption Commitment requires Azure IP co-sell status, which is a higher tier with its own revenue thresholds and technical validation. You need at least $100,000 in Azure consumed revenue or marketplace build sales over the trailing 12 months. You need to pass Azure Platform technical validation. You need a reference architecture diagram. It's a separate process with separate requirements, and it's the thing that actually makes your offer count toward a customer's Azure spend commitments. Without it, you're missing one of the biggest procurement incentives enterprise buyers have. The hard way is this. Partners who treat Marketplace as a set it and forget it channel end up with a listing that generates zero pipeline. They put in the work to get listed, celebrate the launch, and then move on to the next project. 6 months later, they check their Partner Center dashboard and see single-digit impressions. They blame the Marketplace, but the Marketplace didn't fail them. They failed to operate it. That brings us to the real question. What does it take to do this the right way? What the right way looks like, the repeatable path. Here's how you do this the right way. It starts with one decision that most partners get wrong. You pick your storefront based on your buyer, not your product type. Not what's easier to build, not what your developer recommends, but where your buyer actually shops. If your customer is a line of business person who doesn't know what an Azure subscription is, you belong on AppSource. If your customer is a cloud architect who manages infrastructure spend, you belong on Azure Marketplace. That decision drives everything else. Your pricing model, your integration path, your timeline. Get it right first, then you build certification readiness into your development timeline, not as an afterthought and not as a we'll figure that out after we finish the product. From the start, you know that Entra ID integration, billing, metering, APIs, and compliance documentation are part of the build. They're not separate projects, they're features of the product, same as any user-facing capability. If you treat certification as a post-development task, you're adding weeks to your timeline before you even submit. Use Microsoft's pre-submission checklist before every submission. It's published and free, and it lists the 5 common errors that cause 80% of rejections. Terms of use link, privacy policy link, testing instructions, service disclosures, additional purchase disclosures. Check every single one before you hit submit. That 10-minute check saves you a 2 to 4 week rejection cycle, and it's the highest ROI action in the entire process. Assign ownership. This is where most partners fall apart. They have one person trying to manage legal, engineering, marketing, and sales readiness. That person gets overwhelmed, something slips, and the submission gets rejected. Instead, assign clear ownership. Legal owns the terms and privacy policy, engineering owns the technical integration, marketing owns the listing copy and GTM assets, and sales owns co-sell readiness. Each team knows what they're responsible for, and there's a single person who tracks the overall timeline. No ambiguity, no dropped balls. Plan for 12 to 24 weeks minimum. If you beat that timeline, great. If you don't, you're not behind, you're on schedule. The partners who get frustrated are the ones who planned for 8 weeks and hit 24. They feel like they failed, but they didn't. They just planned wrong. Build the real timeline into your forecast from day one, and the process stops feeling like a crisis. Test the reviewer experience yourself. Create a clean test account. Not your personal account with all your existing subscriptions and permissions, but a clean account that looks like what a reviewer would have. Write step-by-step instructions for how to access and test your product, and check accessibility on every page the reviewer will see. Keyboard navigation, contrast, alt text on images. If the reviewer can't figure out how to use your product in 15 minutes, they're not going to spend 30 minutes figuring it out. They're going to reject it. And here's a shortcut that actually works. Work with a partner or platform that specializes in marketplace listing. The cost is real, but it's less than the cost of 3 rejection cycles. If you're a team of 5 people trying to learn the marketplace from scratch, the math is simple. Pay someone who's done it before, or pay for 3 rounds of rejections, rework, and delayed revenue. The specialist is cheaper. The real cost of the hard way. So here's the full picture. The hard way isn't about technical complexity, it's about underestimating the process. Partners who treat Marketplace as a checkbox exercise end up with rejections, delays, and zero pipeline. The ones who treat it as a go-to-market investment get co-sell, mass EC, and a repeatable revenue engine. Here's your homework. Audit your current listing or pre-submission against the 5 common errors. Fix them before you submit. That's 1 hour of work that saves you weeks of delays. If you want to build this engine for real, start with the storefront decision and work backward from your buyer's behavior. The marketplace is worth the fight, but only if you fight the right battles.